Good evening, and thanks for checking out this video. Lately, I've really been lusting after getting a Hofner Beatle bass. Every now and again, I go through these McCartney phases, and pretty recently, I really wanted to get that hollow body tone, and that iconic Hofner Beatle bass tone is pretty hard to reproduce with another type of bass. You need the right Hofner with the right strings, coupled with the right playing technique. And with those three, maybe you can come close to the McCartney sound. Now, the tricky thing with the McCartney sound is, depending on the era you're listening to, his settings changed and his tone changed. Sometimes he would play with fingers, sometimes he would play with a pick. So it's really hard to nail down and pinpoint the exact Hofner settings or the exact Hofner tone. Having said that, that Hofner tone is iconic and unmistakable. So a big shout out to my friend Bruce for loaning me this Hofner Icon Beatle bass. That is the made in China version. Now, I've always been hesitant to buy a Hofner. The German ones were pretty expensive. The vintage ones sometimes came with problems in the set neck. The necks were twisted. And just from the overall fragile nature of these Hofners, a lot of the vintage ones were not in great playing shape. The quality of the Chinese-made ones were pretty hit and miss. So unless you found one in the store that you were able to inspect and play, ordering one blind online sometimes can get a bit dicey. This is a pretty good example of the Icon basses. So I'm really happy to be able to try this one out for you. Now, the control layout on these Beatle basses is weird. So you have two volume knobs, one for the neck pickup and one for the bridge pickup. But then you have these three toggle switches that are not exactly intuitive, especially if you come from the Fender world. How I understand McCartney liked to run his basses is mostly with the neck pickup, and that's what we will do here. So right now I have the rhythm toggle set to rhythm, and bass and treble are both off, and here is the tone you can get from it. Now, when you engage the rhythm in the solo toggle, you get a bit of a volume boost. So here it is on solo. Back to rhythm. Now, when you engage the bass on toggle, as I understand it, engages a capacitor that gives you a bit of a treble roll-off. So a roll-off of the high. So let's engage that. Now, the treble on and off button is the weird one, because when you engage it, it turns the neck pickup off. I'll show you here. See, there's nothing. But now you can roll in the bridge pickup. So I think on this particular bass, with these particular strings, these are GHS flats. I think the closest I can get with my playing technique to the iconic Hofner McCartney sound is with the rhythm toggle on rhythm, bass and treble off, only using the neck pickup, and I only have the volume pot up halfway, so using a bit of the high roll-off from the potentiometer, and then this is the tone you get. Now, the really cool thing about having different basses in the studio for different songs is, in addition to the different tones that are inherent to the instrument, some instruments make you play differently. And that is definitely the case with the Hofner here. Usually I would play finger plucks with my second and third fingers, and that would sound like this. But the string spacing is quite a bit more narrow on these compared to a standard Fender or even my short scales. So that technique is a little more cumbersome. But to really get that McCartney sound, you have to play with a pick sometimes. Now, I can't play with a pick for the life of me, but I have developed a bit of this kind of pseudo picking technique where I use the very tip of my index finger and use short upstrokes, and that sounds like this. And you get closer to that kind of pick type attack. It doesn't sound just like a pick, but it gets to be a little closer than just using two-finger picking. So with this bass, what I thought would be a cool experiment would be to play it along to a drum track and try to get as close as I can to that iconic Hofner Beatle bass sound. And then, as a point of comparison, I'm going to play along the same drum track with a whole bunch of different basses. The reason why I was lusting after the Hofner bass is when I was thinking about the 5 types of iconic bass tones I wanted to achieve, those would include a P bass, a J bass, a modern 5-string, a fretless, and then for number 5, I would call a specialty bass, a type of bass that has a tone that's really hard to mimic with other kinds of basses. The Hofner Beatle bass, I think, fits in that special bass category. So that's why I was really interested in trying to get one for my bass collection. So let's play along to the track with the Hofner first, and then we'll do a compilation track with a whole bunch of different basses. So hopefully we can hear and appreciate the sonic differences of all of those. I hope you enjoy the video.